Welcome everyone to my video today. I thought that I didn't expect to make another video this week, but I was thinking about something and I thought it would be a good video to make. Also, it was requested of me to make a few videos regarding breastfeeding over 6 months, so like older babies. I thought that maybe I would start like around 3 to 4 months, because that is a big, as I mentioned in my video before, it is a big, I should say a rough patch. It tends to be that 3 to 6 month mark. So I think I'll do some videos in that area. So if it's something you're interested in, maybe you can give this video a thumbs up. Also, if you leave in the comments below any topics that you would like discussed regarding breastfeeding older babies. So today I thought that I would explain a little bit about growth spurts, and basically when things start to happen and we ask ourselves, is this a growth spurt? Many times you'll hear lactation consultants or peer counselors or just lactation specialists in general refer to growth spurts, and they tell you usually they last somewhere between 24 and 48 hours. And one thing I just wanted, this isn't going to be a long video because basically this is just what I really wanted to clarify, is that when your baby is going through a growth spurt, it can feel like 3 days depending on the time that growth spurt starts. So say you are, your baby starts getting fussy around 3 p.m. on a Tuesday, and 24 hours would be 3 p.m. on a Wednesday. And if it goes over that, then it can go into Thursday. So then you've got a fussy baby Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and it feels like, okay, this has been 3 days, this is too long. When in reality, if you were to pinpoint the time of day that the baby started getting fussy and really started nursing more often, you would then count 24 hours from that period of time, and you would continue to do that. So 24 to 48 hours. If a baby goes longer than that, and they can go more than 48 hours, and a lot of times this could just be a little change in their pattern, like I mentioned in my previous video. They could be going every 2 to 3 hours feeding, and then all of a sudden they start going every hour and a half. And just remembering that breast milk is in their stomach for only an hour and a half. So it is normal for a baby to breastfeed anywhere from every hour to every 3 hours. So if all of a sudden they change from feeding every 2 to 3 hours to every hour to hour and a half, that's actually perfectly normal. Growth spurts, that'll go away after 2 days, possibly 3, just depending on when that 24-hour period starts. But a baby who's just changing their feeding pattern, so maybe now they're going to start feeding a little bit more often, that doesn't necessarily go away, but they will change again. So it could be a couple weeks that they do that, and then all of a sudden they change again, and now they're feeding every 3 hours, and then they change again and they're feeding every hour and a half or whatever. And then just to clarify again what cluster feeds are, cluster feeds can happen, but cluster feeds are just like an excessive amount of feeding in a certain period of time, and then a long period of time of rest where they're not feeding. So say for instance at noon, and this tends to happen I think mainly in the evening and nights, where they'll feed every hour, or they'll seem like they're on your breast constantly for maybe 3, 4, 5 hours, and then they sleep for 4 or 5 hours. That's what cluster feeding is. Cluster feeding is not when they're feeding every hour or feeding every hour and a half. That would be considered possibly a growth spurt if it's just a short period of time, or it could be a feeding pattern change. But growth spurts can vary from baby to baby. So we say 24 to 48 hours, but like I said, it can go over a longer period of time. But typically a growth spurt will pass. Like after a few days, it passes. Whereas a feeding pattern change will last longer. It could be weeks. So just kind of knowing that. When you would start to worry that they're feeding too often is when diaper output isn't good, when they don't seem satisfied after eating, so they don't have any rest period after eating. So after they're fed and they're changed, they should have a rest period. Even if they're not sleeping, they shouldn't be crying a lot where you feel like they're hungry. And this is what I'm talking about, like all day. So if a baby is feeding literally on the breast constantly and it goes longer than a couple of days and they're just not happy at all, even in between feeds, then you might start to look at diaper output, start to look at, are they sleeping a lot at the breast? You can do some weight checks, see how, like, weigh the baby before they eat, breastfeed, and then weigh after to kind of get an idea. So those are some things you can do to kind of, which this kind of goes along with my previous video, but I really wanted to help you understand whether your baby is having a growth spurt. So just to summarize that, a growth spurt can last from 24 to 48 hours, but it can go over a 2 to 3 day period, just depending on when that growth spurt starts. So if you think about it, say a growth spurt starts at 8 o'clock at night on a Tuesday. It could be Friday before they start acting better. So never worry, just kind of try to pinpoint the time of day that they started getting fussy and started to seem to feed much more often, and then kind of go from there. You could always call a lactation consultant or a peer counselor or something like that to have them observe a feeding and to see if everything looks okay. And then of course you always have your diapers. So if you feel like maybe they're not getting enough, just look at their diapers. I would always say do the 24-hour test. So you pull out 6 diapers, you look at the clock, it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, let's say, and then by 2 o'clock the next day in the afternoon, did they go through all 6 diapers? If they went through all 6 diapers, then you're good. I also mentioned in my previous video about, of those 6 diapers, 2 to 3 being stool. But when a baby hits about 4 to 6 weeks, the stools can change. It might be just 1 stool a day. It could be 1 stool every other day. Some babies will go 2 or 3 days in between a stool. So before 4 weeks, you're definitely looking for, multiple bowel movements a day. But after 4 to 6 weeks, that will slow down. So I just kind of wanted to clarify that. That is something that I said in my other video that I wanted to make sure that I clarified and that you guys understood. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope that this helps. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys in my next video.